Have you ever wondered what it's like to be tested to your limits? Imagine being alone in a wild forest, surrounded by dangerous creatures, with nothing but your courage and your axe. The smell of damp earth and the sound of breaking branches echo in your mind as you move forward to face something bigger than you can imagine. Today, you'll follow the journey of Tharok, a young orc about to take his first steps in a world where strength is the only currency. But is he ready to face the challenges ahead? Or will the jungle of Drakzareth swallow his courage? Let's find out. Drakzareth, a vast and inhospitable realm, where towering mountains rise like sentinels and dense forests conceal dark secrets. The trees intertwine, creating a canopy of thick leaves that barely let sunlight through, making the environment dim and intimidating. The ground is covered with a thick layer of moss and entwined roots, making each step resonate with a muffled sound. Tharok, a young orc, is no stranger to this world. He was born in a small village, where the sounds of forges and battles were constant. But now, as part of his destiny, he must venture into the vast world to prove he has the spirit of a warrior. Tharok had left his tribe days ago, following only the echoes of his ambition. The desire for glory pulsed in his heart like a war drum, guiding his solitary steps through unknown lands. It was during a walk along a cliff that he spotted a simple village nestled between dark hills and a dense forest. The place seemed promising, not as a destination, but as a starting point for his great journey. Garrick was an imposing figure, even in such a modest place. The elder warrior was known as a survivor, someone who had left his mark on legendary battles. He now lived there, offering knowledge and rewards to those brave enough to face the challenges of the land. Tharok entered Garrick's hut with firm, yet cautious steps. The space was cramped and filled with war artifacts. Worn-out spears, maps with detailed marks, and animal skins hanging as trophies. Garrick was leaning against a rough wooden chair, his eyes examining Tharok with quiet curiosity. Without many words, Garrick began speaking, as if he could already read the reason for Tharok's visit before he even said anything. He described the surroundings and the dangers that inhabited them, highlighting one particular threat: the spotted boars that roamed to the north. They were brutal creatures, known for their aggression and the relentless way they defended their territory. Garrick didn't offer encouragement, but he didn't scorn the young orc either. He simply presented the task as a fact, something Tharok could choose to accept or reject. He explained that the boars were destroying crops and attacking unsuspecting travelers. It was an urgent problem for the region, and at the same time, an opportunity for those who wanted to prove their strength. Tharok listened in silence, absorbing every detail as his hands rested on the handle of his axe. Garrick, for his part, emphasized the difficulty of the challenge. Killing a spotted boar was a dangerous task. Surviving a group of them was almost suicidal. But to Tharok, these words didn't sound like warnings. To him, they were an invitation. Finally, Garrick mentioned the rewards. Not gold or immediate glory, but the respect of those who lived in the region. It was a first step, a chance to build a reputation that could grow from there. When Garrick finished speaking, he pointed toward the forest and let the silence speak for itself. Tharok needed no more. He stood up, adjusted his axe on his back, and left the hut with renewed purpose. There were no doubts or regrets, just the certainty that this would be the first of many battles he would face on his journey to become a legend. As Tharok left Garrick's hut, he was met by the damp air of the northern forest. The tall, twisted trees seemed to form a tunnel of shadows, as if nature itself wanted to test his determination. The sounds of wildlife echoed all around, but there was something else there, a heavy feeling in the air, as if the land was tainted by a dark presence. The possessed boars were not ordinary creatures. Garrick had mentioned that they not only protected their territory, but also attacked with a fury that seemed unnatural. It was said that their eyes glowed with a supernatural red, as if something else dwelled inside them. Tharok adjusted the weight of his axe in his hands and headed north, where, according to Garrick, the first signs of boar activity had been spotted. The journey was slow, not only because of the uneven terrain but also because of the caution Tharok employed with every step. He knew that a surprise attack could be fatal. The dense vegetation hid everything: enemies, traps, or even a safe path. When he finally found the first tracks, deep marks on the ground and signs of destruction in the nearby trees, he felt adrenaline begin to surge. The first encounters were quick. Tharok found a single possessed boar, with sharp tusks and eyes that indeed glowed like burning embers. The creature charged with impressive ferocity, and the impact nearly knocked Tharok to the ground. But the young orc held his ground, dodging the attacks and landing precise blows until the beast was brought down. Each subsequent battle seemed more intense. The boar's strength was unbelievable, and the energy they radiated made Tharok question if there was something more behind their fury. He began to realize that this mission was more than just a test of strength. It was a direct confrontation with the dark forces that inhabited that land. As Tharok ventured deeper into the forest, he began to feel that he was not alone. The silence of the environment was almost deafening, interrupted only by the occasional rustle of the vegetation. He followed the tracks he found until he realized too late. He wasn't hunting, but being hunted. A snap to his left was the only warning he had before being attacked by two possessed boars at once. The animals emerged from the shadows, their eyes glowing and teeth bared. Tharok barely had time to raise his axe to block the first strike. The blow sent him crashing into a tree, and pain shot through his back. But worse was yet to come. As he stood, two more boars emerged from the darkness, surrounding him. Now there were four. Their movements were coordinated, almost strategic, as if they shared a collective mind. Tharok knew he couldn't win if he stood still. With a roar, he charged the nearest one, landing a blow that struck it on the side. The boar fell, but the others didn't give him time to celebrate. One of the creatures leaped, knocking Tharok down again. He rolled to the side, dodging the tusks, and struck fiercely, carving a path between the adversaries. Every movement was a mix of instinct and survival. His hands trembled with effort, but he didn't stop. The fight seemed endless, until finally, the last of the boars fell. The silence returned, but it wasn't relief. It was a heavy silence, as if something else was watching. Covered in wounds and exhausted, Tharok staggered to a small stream he found near the battle site. The clear water flowed peacefully, contrasting with the chaos he had just faced. He knelt and dipped his hands into the cold water, washing the blood and dirt from his wounds. As he caught his breath, he looked at the bodies of the boars. Something was wrong. Despite having fallen, the eyes of some of the creatures still faintly glowed, like a flame about to extinguish. There was a mysterious force there, something he didn't yet understand, but knew would not be the last time he faced it. Tharok took a piece of dried meat from his pouch and chewed slowly, tasting the bland but necessary flavor. Meanwhile, his thoughts were distant. He had survived, but barely. This moment of rest was a victory in itself, a pause before facing whatever was still to come. When Tharok returned to the hut, the sun was already setting, tinting the sky with shades of orange and red. Each step felt heavy, but it carried the weight of his achievement. He entered the space, and all eyes turned to him. Garrick was waiting, with his usual stoic expression. He didn't speak immediately, just assessed Tharok with attentive eyes. The young orc dropped the bag he carried, with evidence of his victory, tusks and marks from the possessed boars. Finally, Garrick spoke, his voice firm, cutting through the silence. He acknowledged Tharok's feat, mentioning that few would have survived something so dangerous. It wasn't just a task completed. It was an important step on the journey of a warrior seeking glory on his own. Tharok didn't need celebrations or praise. The recognition in Garrick's eyes was enough. He had proven something to himself, and more importantly, to the world. His journey had only just begun, but now more than ever, he knew he was on the right path. Garrick wasn't known for demonstrations of emotion or effusive words of recognition. However, that morning, as the sunlight began to pierce through the cracks in the hut, he approached Tharok with something different in his eyes. It wasn't the usual hardness of a mentor or the evaluation of an experienced warrior. It was something deeper, something that carried respect. In his arms, Garrick carried a leather armor, crafted with skill and attention to detail. The pieces were made of thick, durable leather, clearly taken from the possessed boars that had been slain earlier. Each stitch seemed purposeful, and some parts were reinforced with polished bones, giving the armor both a functional and intimidating appearance. "This," Garrick began, his voice rough and firm, "is not just armor." He placed the piece before Tharok, his eyes locked on the young orc. "It's a symbol. Every part of it was made from the leather of the boars you helped slay. It's not just protection, but a reminder that you've conquered something many wouldn't dare face." Garrick then began to explain the details. The leather had been treated with special oils that made it flexible, yet incredibly durable. The bone plates on the shoulders and chest weren't just ornaments. They were reinforcements that could deflect blades and withstand brutal blows. Even the buckles were made from pieces of the boar's teeth, each one gleaming in the hut's light like miniature trophies. As Garrick spoke, Tharok listened in silence. He understood that this wasn't just a gift, but a recognition of his strength, resilience, and the journey he had begun. The armor was an extension of himself, something he would wear with pride, something that would protect him in the battles to come. "Use it well, Tharok," Garrick said finally. "And remember, it is as strong as you are. No more, no less." Tharok lifted the armor with both hands, feeling its weight. It wasn't just the weight of the material, but the weight of its meaning. He donned it right there, feeling as though each piece had been made specifically for him. When he stood up, the armor now adorning his body, he seemed different. Not just stronger, but more confident, more determined. Garrick watched in silence for a moment before giving a brief nod of approval. Then he returned to his tasks, leaving Tharok with the feeling that, despite the silence, he had earned more than just armor. He had earned the respect of a veteran, an important milestone in his quest for glory. Tharok lightly touched one of the bone plates on his shoulder and looked toward the entrance of the hut. The world of Draxxarath awaited him, filled with enemies, allies, and endless possibilities. And with his new armor, he was more ready than ever to face whatever challenges awaited him. If you enjoyed this journey and want to know what comes next, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. We have many more adventures waiting for you. And if you want to find out what happens in the next chapter of Tharok's story, the video is already showing on the screen now. Until next time, and may Tharok's strength inspire you to never give up, no matter how difficult the path may be.